I just watched Panorama right now, and it's a little bit interesting because I want to. I was asking this morning about like just what the fuck is going on with the refugees and the hotels, and I just completely didn't understand it. And I think sometimes for you to understand something, you've got to watch something like Panorama or some sort of TV document that kind of explains it. And I guess it did. It kind of explained that if you come to the country as a refugee, you just need to sign on to refugee status. You'll get some sort of time period where you get put in a hotel, but I think it's 56 days or something. So you get 56 days in a free accommodation, and then afterwards, your claim either gets accepted and you have to start finding your own accommodation, paying for your own accommodation, or you have to leave. I think that's how it works. I think a lot of people do then go into sort of home status, and it's basically an organization of people that want to make lots of money, and they do it by housing refugees, and they basically take a cut from everyone that they house. So they have a good incentive to do something like this because they're making money from every person they house. The refugees, I guess, get free housing, um, and yeah, I think that's the point of it. But you're obviously taking in way too many people. You're getting more and more and more each time, and our demographics are completely changing, and it's heartbreaking to know that the reason why I had to leave London because I couldn't afford housing. But there was a lot of options that I could have gone to. The first option, I guess, would have been Luton. That would have been the second closest town. The other one would have been Milton Keynes, and then Northampton. I couldn't afford to live in Luton. I couldn't afford to live in Milton Keynes. I could afford to live in Northampton. I would have just been able to if I was paying 60. I had about 50. I had 50,000. My mum had 50,000, but I could have borrowed another 20,000 off her and paid her back within a year. So I could have gone. This house was basically the top of my budget because it was 105. But in Luton, the cheapest house was about 200,000. I didn't have 100. My mum said she'll pay half. I didn't have 100,000. My mum did have 100,000, but I didn't have 100,000. So I couldn't have lived in Luton. Though I could have got a one. I tried to go for a one-bedroom flat in Milton Keynes. It was for like 150,000, but that property that I found had structural damage problems, and it was a complete mess. It was a wreck. It wasn't very nice. I wouldn't have been able to get much for 150,000 in Milton Keynes. It would have been a tiny flat on it with huge problems. So I couldn't go there. Northampton, I probably could have afforded a decent place for 150,000 up there. But Birmingham was a better option because it's a bigger city. There was very cheap trains. There's these cheap deals from city to city. So if you go from London to Birmingham, you can actually travel to a very cheap price. So it made more sense. I could have afforded Coventry as well, but Birmingham just made more sense. But it's just annoying to think that there's so many places in the south of London that I couldn't move to, and then these refugees who just come here and get free accommodation, free everything. And the thing is, though, it's not nice living in England. It's not nice living in England. Why? Because the rent is so expensive that you have to get a job and you have to pay for the rent. But the job that you work at only just about covers the rent. I mean, a lot of people are paying, £1,000, £2,000, £1,000 to £2,000 every single month, and it's bizarre because it's like, most people only make about 24 to 30,000 a year. So if you take off like taxes, if you take off expenses, travel is very expensive, car is very expensive. If you take off all these things, you're basically only left with basics to afford the rent, and you don't have that much left over. And therefore, it's not actually nice living in England. And yeah, all these refugees are coming over here, getting free accommodation. I don't know how long it lasts for. I got angry because I saw one video clip where someone said that they've been living in a hotel for 6 months, which just sounds crazy. What? Refugees come in, they get to stay in a free hotel for 6 months. I mean, that's absolutely insane. But I suppose it's only 56 days. But they're now thinking of changing it to make it 28 days. And then they have to leave if they fail it, but most people don't fail it. But The guy who was interviewing it, to me he seemed very British. To me he seemed very let's turn this light off. To me it seemed very like he seemed very happy and full of good energy. He had a good ability to speak and present, and for me he doesn't seem Asian. I wouldn't look at him and see and think that he's Asian, but yes, technically he does look Asian. And he's saying that when he was doing the interview, he actually got a couple of racist people calling him names because of his race, and because he was doing an interview with someone from the Home Office, and that these people recognised this lady as being part of the Home Office. They assumed that, I guess, he was one of the asylums, so they swore at him because of that. But I can actually understand why this is happening. Why? Because I never had a problem with Asian looking people up until June time, when I started realizing that like 95% of people in my area are Islamic, and the women's huge, about 20% of them actually cover their face as well, so they're just walking around like a black bin bag. And that really annoys me, to think that you've allowed so many people into this country that I feel like I'm living in the Middle East. This is just horrible. It's horrible. And then, when you think about all the people that are coming in the boats, and it's like, how many is coming in? And then you start having this like look, this typical look of what you'd expect on a boat of those people that are coming in. And they're not refugees, they're invaders. This is an invasion. If you've got this many people coming in, and then you're starting to notice like how many Asian looking people there are in this country, and then you think this isn't they're not being welcomed. And the Home Office that is kind of forced the councils to take on all these refugees, they didn't agree with this. This was just, apparently she said that it just happened overnight, that they just started, as soon as Labour got into power, they started saying that we need to be more welcoming to these people and give them more stuff. And I don't even know how long this has been going on, because I don't believe this has just been going on for a year. I think this has been going on for a lot longer, but I don't know. I've never been aware of it. So maybe it hasn't been going on. Maybe these hotels and this free accommodation for refugees is only just a new thing. And one of them said that he's come from Ethiopia. I didn't know there was a war going on in Ethiopia. So he's saying that he's coming, but he didn't bring his family. So if there's really a war going on, why would only he come and not his family? That doesn't make any sense. And they're saying that he's saying that now that the restrictions are tighter, he's not even going to be able to bring his family over here. I mean, that doesn't sound like someone who's if you want to travel with your family, you come with your family. And I'm looking at the energy that he gives. I'm not getting good vibes because he doesn't speak English. Why would you come to a country where you don't even speak the language? If you want to seek asylum here, you first need to learn the language, the main language of the country you want to seek asylum in. First, you have to educate yourself in the right language of what the country is speaking. I mean, technically, I'm hoping that in a couple of years' time we can wipe out all languages and just speak English. Like, that would be nice. We can keep Chinese, but I think everyone in the world should speak English. And I know French is not going to like that because they're very proud of their language, but I think the world would be so much better if everyone in the world spoke English. But I don't think I'll be able to push that. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to say, because I hate the human species. I hate the world. I hate everything that I feel completely ignored and cut off. Like, no one wants to listen to me or anything. And yeah, I can understand though why people are getting more and more racist. If the country is full of good Asians, you start getting positive vibes from Asian people. Now, if the country is being invaded by lots of, and when I say Asian, I don't mean Chinese and Japanese, I actually mean Middle Eastern. I don't know why I keep calling Middle Eastern people Asian, but, Ethiopia is definitely not Asian, that's African. But yeah, a lot of African people don't actually look black, they look Middle Eastern, so yeah, I think I need to stop calling them Asian, because that link, Asia usually links to China and stuff, so I don't know why I keep doing that, but Middle Eastern, there's lots of Middle Eastern looking people, just brown hair and tan skin, dark brown hair, tan skin, but then technically that could also be, a lot of people look that, but yeah, just Middle Eastern. There's a look that's coming through on the boats. And when people see that, we feel like we're being invaded. Now, if we start linking that look to people who are looking British. He seemed very British. I liked how he talked. I liked how he presented himself. But if you're someone who's just getting more and more frustrated by all these illegal immigrants and you don't want them here, and then you start hearing more and more cases of rapes and just attacks, and seeing Middle Eastern looking people spitting on your flag, this just makes you think, get these people out, and then it's going to start affecting everyone that looks like that. And I know that there's a difference between the integrated Middle Eastern people who love this country and can speak English well, and belong here because they've worked hard and they're paying their rent and they're just doing stuff. But when you've got an invasion happening, it's like if the Vikings came over here, and if a bunch of Vikings came over here and started living with us and start getting on with us and doing everything fine, and then a ton more Vikings came in and started doing shit, we're suddenly going to start seeing all the Vikings as being exactly the same, when in reality some have integrated and some haven't. But you can't tell by someone's look necessarily. I think I could. Like, he looked very English looking. He had a happy vibe on him, and what nice to meet you. When I cycle through Birmingham, I like to look into people's eyes just quickly, and just to see if I can get like a idea of what that person's like and stuff, and see how well I can judge them. But you can't judge them unless you know what they say, unless you hear them speak. You can't judge them. But yeah, a lot of people are not going to be like that, because they're just going to say, he looks like someone who's coming in on a boat, and I'm going to instantly hate him because of that. And if Asian people who have immigrated well, want to do what's best for them, then I think they also need to get behind this sort of stop the immigrant boats, because the invasion from happening. Why? Because people are getting angrier and angrier at this invasion, and we're going to start. People are going to start feeling more and more racist. I am actually feeling more and more racist because I hate Islam, because I notice every single one of my Asians or my angels are not Middle Eastern looking, except for my angel of war. Actually, the angel of fun as well, but she's dyed her hair blonde. By dyeing her hair blonde, she doesn't look Asian at all. I don't know. I really hope. I don't know what to say. I just, because I can say I hope that this stops, but if it's just housing people, but I don't know, because you could say on one hand we need to stop them from working, but that's not a good idea, because if they can't work, then they're just going to turn to crime, and that's even worse. You don't want them to turn to crime. You don't want them to turn to crime, but you don't want them here either. I think, though, if there's a lot of people that are realising that rent in this country is incredibly expensive, there's either going to be people that are pretending to be able to afford rent, when really they're just going to start skipping out on payments and not paying. It'll be very easy to get rid of an asylum if they're not paying their rent. I suppose that will give you more incentive. The problem is the damage that they could cause. If someone moves into a property and refuses to pay the rent for like 4 or 5 months, that person's gone. The person who they lived with, is now 4 or 5 months in debt because of this person. And if the only reason why they were let in is because the Home Office is trying to do them a favour, when really they've just, they're not caring about the people that they're housing, that they're living in. If you do have someone that's not here but has like in here on a sort of temporary assessment, and if they stop paying their rent, would you use that as an excuse to deport them? And what happens to the rent that they didn't pay? Are you going to use some sort of money to, like, rent shouldn't be this expensive. But I think on one hand it's bad, but on the other hand it's going to encourage more and more people to leave. If you come here and you have to live in a tent, well, you won't want to live in a tent in England during January and February. Like those they will get very, very cold, and maybe they'll go. Maybe a lot of them will go, but I don't know. When every single person in your area looks like they're from a different part of the world, England no longer feels like England, and it's not nice feeling like a minority in your own country, and I feel like the only people that are really benefiting are the people that are making money out of these asylum seekers.